Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today for a very simple and healthy chocolate recipe that I came up with a few years ago, and we really like it. Now I have a whole bunch of chocolate recipes. They're all my own, and I will link to the chocolate playlist right up here. Some of them involve using sugar. Typically I'll use an organic sugar. However, today I won't be putting any sugar in this. I'll only be putting fruit for a sweetener. Now you can find other methods, especially if you're doing like a keto type diet or trying to avoid fruits and any kind of sugar or carbohydrates at all. There are other methods you can use. You can look into your stevia and some other natural. Just make sure you're really looking for good natural sugars. Some can be called natural, but it doesn't mean they're good for you, or I should say sweeteners, not sugars. But really look into that, because even some of the stevias you really need to be careful of. Not all of them are as natural as they claim, and many of them that you buy that are white, you buy them from the store, they have additives in them. Please be very careful when you're doing that and look closely. Now me, I don't use stevia. I might get into it someday. I'm just personally not interested. I've grown it before and I liked it, and I might grow it again this year if I remember to get some. But anyway, we're going to move ahead and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Now the first thing you're going to start with is some cacao butter. Now cacao simply means it's raw, which by the time we get done with this, it's not actually going to be raw, but it might still retain a lot of its good healthy raw type qualities because we're going to heat it very low. And this is the brand I use. I will link to it below if you're interested in checking that out, or whatever good healthy brand of cacao butter you can find locally. I typically have to order most things. So what I have here is this is the only place I'm going to be actually using the scales. And so after I've got the pan on there, I turn my scales on, and what I'm wanting is 6 ounces of cacao butter. When I first started doing this, I was doing 4 ounces at a time, and then I increased it to 6. But you don't want to go more than that for the way that I'm going to do that. So right now I'm at 5 1/3. A little bit more in here. We'll get 6 ounces. Okay, there we go. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to go put it on my wood stove in the corner in the coolest spot. And if the wood stove is burning pretty hot, then I'll set it on a trivet. You don't want it to get too hot. You want to heat it on a low heat. So if you're using a conventional oven, I would say low heat. A lot of people will use a double boiler when doing this method. I don't have one. I know there's a way you can rig one up with a couple of pans. I'm not concerned about it. I've been doing it this way for a long time and have had great success with it. But it is true that you do not want your cacao butter or your cocoa butter to get too hot. Okay, so let me go put this on the stove. I'll be right back, and I'll move on to the other stuff when I get back. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pie pan, just a regular 9-inch pie pan, and I'm going to take a little silicone spatula and some Kerrygold butter, or if you have your own, if you have cows or goats and you make your own homemade butter, that's even better. But I try to get a good healthy grass-fed type butter and just spread a little bit on there, at least, I don't know, I don't measure it, maybe it's about a teaspoon, just whatever it is to coat it good on the bottom of your pan. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is get some raisins. I've got some organic raisins here. If they're still available on Amazon, I think they kind of come and go. These have been my favorite organic raisins. Always get organic when it comes to raisins. That is one area you do want to go organic. Anyway, I'll link to them below. They're more of a golden raisin, so you might notice the color is a little bit different. They're not as dark as some. But anyway, what you want to do is put a good layer of those down in your pan. And since I'm not doing this in the 4 ounce anymore, that's not going to be enough, and I knew that, so I got another jar ready to go. Now you'll see this is 2017. This is what I do. I buy a really big bag and get the best deal on them, and then I just jar them up. So this might be my last jar, so I'm going to have to get buying some more raisins. I hope they're available again on Amazon. Really enjoy these ones. So it's very well sealed using my brake bleeder, and I just gonna open that jar. Ooh, listen to that. Okay, and I'm going to put a few more raisins in there. Notice I'm not measuring it. I'm just putting a layer down, pretty much If you're using only 4 ounces of cacao butter, you're gonna put less raisins in it than this. But since I'm using 6 ounces, I want a nice good layer. That's going to give it sweetness. Now you can adjust it to however you want. If raisins are too sweet for you, then use less raisins than this. But I suggest trying it like this. Get the good layer, see what you think, and if you want to cut back on your next making of the chocolate, then go ahead and cut it back. Okay, now you can stop there. That's, you know, as far as this goes, you can just stop there. You don't have to add anything else. When I first started making, when I came up with this recipe, this is all I started with, was 3 ingredients. It was raisins, the cacao butter that you saw, and then the cacao powder. And this is actually the same brand. It's raw cacao. Well, cacao simply means it's raw. So raw cocoa powder or raw cocoa butter is simply referred to as cacao. So saying raw cacao is actually redundant. But anyway, I'll link to this below. It's the same brand, and I also get it through the Subscribe and Save program so that I save another 15% on each of these products. So it's really great. We really like using these, and they're organic. But anyway, those are the 3 things. You can do that. You can call it good. That can be all you put in your chocolate, and you might find it's quite tasty. But today I'm going to be making more of a Almond Joy kind of flavored chocolate. So what I'm going to do is take my coconut flakes, and I don't know if these ones are available on Amazon anymore, but these are organic, and I love these. Unsweetened. Make sure they're unsweetened. And if it's still available, if I can find it again, I'll link to it below. But last I looked, it wasn't. So just sprinkle however much you think sounds good to you. Right over the top, and this is just going to give it even more of a health boost because we know how good coconut is for us. Okay, and then for the almonds, I've got some sliced almonds right here. I think this is the last of these too. I might have to get some more. And I'm going to sprinkle those over the top. Okay, and now another option that I'm not going to add to this, but for another flavor, let's say forget the coconut and the almonds, is going with a more orange flavor. I've got some organic, dehydrated, pulverized, in the blender, orange peels. Sometimes I'll take these and sprinkle those over the top of the raisins, and even add maybe a few drops of the Now Foods orange oil to the cacao butter as it's melting. And that just makes a real nice, yummy, orange flavored chocolate. Okay, I'm going to go check on that cacao butter and see if it's ready. All right, my cacao butter is all melted. So now I'm going to add in the cacao powder, and I'm going to start with a 1/2 cup. Typically, you're going to want about 2 tablespoons of cacao powder for every ounce of cacao butter that you have in here. But I don't measure all that out anymore. I go with about a 1/2 cup. And then a little bit more, so maybe as much as 3/4 cup of chocolate to that, or powder that is. Okay, so a little bit more, that should be plenty. Okay, and then make sure you blend it really well. I like to use a fork. You can use a wire whisk. I find a salad fork works quite nicely for this. Okay, making sure that you check all of those clumps. Now if it starts to get a little cool and things aren't blending as well as you would like, then go ahead and stick it back on your heat source for just a little bit longer, because when you add the cacao powder, it is going to cool it down some, especially if you already had it at a pretty low heat, which you should have. And you may need to just sort of, you know, just heat it through a little bit again in order to help you be able to get all those chunks blended in there really well. So I'm just about there. I have a few more chunks here that need to be well blended. Okay, I just like to take your fork or your whisk, whatever it is. The fork works nicely for being able to do this because it'll pull up any chunks you've got. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now all you need to do is just drizzle that right over the top of your whatever it is you got in your pan, your raisins, coconut, and almonds like I've got here, or your raisins and orange peel, or even raisins and freeze-dried raspberries. And then I'm going to take this same spatula I used to spread the butter in the pan and finish getting the rest of that out of there. You want every drop you can get out of there, you want in that pan. Okay, and then you can take your little rubber spatula and just sort of press it down in there, make sure it gets all in and around all the raisins. You know, don't really mix it, just press it in, because remember, you got that butter on there to help keep the chocolate from sticking too badly. It makes it come out of the pan a lot easier. The next thing you want to do is take your chocolate and stick it in the refrigerator. It's going to take maybe 10-15 minutes for it to set up, maybe longer, and you can even stick it in the freezer if you want. I recommend putting it in the refrigerator. So I'm going to do that now, and then when it's all set up, I'll come back and show you what I do next. Okay, well, I'm back. The chocolate's all set up and it's ready to cut. So what I do is I like to get a heavy-duty spatula, one that's pretty heavy. And I just stick it in there like that and then start cutting. I usually cut it in half. In fact, this is still just a tad bit soft, but that's okay. And then you can take it from there and break it into smaller pieces, however small you want them. And there you go.
Pizza cutter can work.
Yeah, pizza cutter can work really good too, Patrick says. So there's the chocolate all broke up. So I'm going to finish breaking it up and put it on a plate. All right, so there we have it. Some tasty, yummy, healthy, believe it or not, chocolate that you can make with just 3 ingredients or more if you want, depending on the flavor that you're looking for. So right here we're looking at more of an Almond Joy kind of chocolate. And there's close up. All right, now normally what I do with this is I actually keep it in the pan and keep it in the fridge. You really want to keep it in the fridge because this is not loaded with stabilizers and other garbage like that to keep it from melting. So putting it in the fridge, Mr. Rain, is going to keep it set up so it doesn't melt on you. And yeah, it's just really good that way. You just keep it in that pan. You can cover it up if you want, and there you go. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.